Come on in, y'all. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in to my place. I want to talk about the great Bill Cosby and this stuff that's going on since today's date is September the 26th, 2018. I wanted to give that date stamp because it is important that y'all see that we're not trying to repeat ourselves or all that good stuff. All right, hold on one second. I got to sign on over here, and then let's see if we can talk about this Cosby situation. All right, 1 second here. 5, 4, 3, 2. Hello, everybody. Sirwalterj, the Sirwalterj Jones Show. I am he. It is the let's see, evening edition, baby. That's the office thing. I'm sorry. I'm at the radio station. It is Wednesday. It is the day that we sit around the mic and talk about current events. Current events of the day to see if we can make sense of what's going on in news. I see Facebook has chimed in. Thank you for being here. Tony and Joseph and Shamika and Amber Rogers, Demond Johnson, Tamara, Clara, Aurora, and who else is there? Harper is here, and the rest. And the rest here on Gilligan's Isle. Hey, Nichelle, let's see if we can talk about the Bill Cosby sentencing and the effects of the sentencing and what can we make out of it. I have delved into this conversation at least 2 times before. One time in 2015, I called it Nymphomania versus Bill Cosby. We were downstairs in the radio station at that time. And I guess, when I called it Nymphomania, I'm probably, for those of you who know anything about hypersexuality and the terms that are deemed sexual addictions, nympho usually apply to the woman and satyriasis usually apply to the man. Satyromia, Romania, I think they call that. It's a comprehensive of corresponding conditions. One is the nymph is woman, and the satyriasis is the man. Anyway, it's a Greek thing. Okay, it's all about Greek mythology, and y'all can go ahead and study that the best way you can at your own time. But I do want to see if I could bring up 7 points on what happened yesterday. Blessings to you, Lady Rochelle. So good to see you. And JMO Pro, Brenda, and Shante, Veronica, and Clarence. A whole lot of you are here. I want to talk about this, Debbie Holmes. Blessings to you, Patrick. 7 points. I do 7 points because I'm leading into something. My book is going to be released in February, Valentine's Day, dealing with the 4 women that men desire. And in that book is 7 chapters with 7 points. And we're calling this the Sirwalterj 7. Today I want to bring up 7 points here because it's a great number. It's the number that I use quite a bit. It's God's perfect number. The first one is, what is sexual predator? What is a sexual predator? The first thing I'm going to talk about. Number 2, I'm going to talk about the Weinstein effect. Number 3, I want to bring up those who are accused of sexual assault. Number 4, I want to talk about the rape culture. Number 5, I want to talk about the tribal behavior. Number 6, I want to talk about accountability. And number 7, I want to talk about the dangers of being too pro-black. These are 7 points. I'm going to see if I can knock this out in 1 hour. Bear with me. Those of you who are on the YouTube, go ahead and hit the share button and the bell button, bing, and the subscribe button. There's a whole bunch of buttons there. And see if you can do something with that, okay? Barbara Wainford, blessings to you. What is a sexual predator? At the time of this recording again, the sentence was yesterday, and they had proclaimed, deemed this man, Bill Cosby, as a sexual predator. And he now have to register as a sex offender, and for the rest of his life, he's got to go through counseling, I think once a month, and report this. And y'all know how that whole thing does what it do. There is an article here by Psychology Today. Joe Hill, blessings to you. He says, I may or may not be listening. Vansha, blessings to you. Yeah, the thinking process of a sexual predator. Some of you think and feel that to call America's dad a sexual predator seemed to be a little harsh, and how could that possibly be with the man who's 80 years old? It really doesn't matter how old he is. He's still got 2 hands and arms, and his other body parts apparently were working during the time of these assaults. Behavior results from the way a person thinks. Understand, a sexual predator. It's not what you think. Those of you who are just, a part of the court of public opinion is the most, unprofessional, opinionated jury there is out there. There are no professional witnesses in the court of public opinion. It's just whatever they say is law to many people who listen to the trending thoughts of people. But when you look at professionals and how they define certain words, pay close attention, because they've been in it for years and you just decided to come up with some kind of opinion. And a lot of times Christians come up with these opinions about what they think a man is and what a woman is and is not. I'd rather listen to somebody who spent a lot of time studying this craft. So the thinking process of a sexual predator, behavior results from the way a person thinks. A person's thinking process largely defines his character. Even scripture lines up with that. As a man think in his heart, so is he. All right. In considering how to prevent further victimizing of employees in the workplace, it is essential to understand the mental makeup of the victimizer. Sexual harassment, sexual assault, and rape obviously are sex offenses, but they have little to do with sex itself. And many of you have talked about how it's really not about the sex. This is true. It has little to do with sex itself, though, but sex is very much involved. The people who are making headlines for their exploitation of women employed by their company likely have had no shortage of opportunities for consensual sex. And sexual predators have plenty of sexual experiences, but it is shallow. Understand, they have sex, but their sex is shallow. They may not enjoy it with the wife. Sex is a control operation for them, and they ordain the time and place of this encounter. Seeking a conquest is the overriding aspect, and the perpetrator cares little what his partners really experience. So the idea to conquer a body, that's the whole idea. Conquer the body but don't have a relationship. Achieving his objective provides him with a buildup. He has sex on his mind a great deal of time. That's why it says it's really about what's in his mind. But he's looking at females as potential targets, so it's just about their bodies. It's not about their minds. It's about his mind and about their bodies. So they become just objects of his desire. In his approach to potential sexual targets, the individual regards himself as irresistible and seeks to have this affirmed. It must be affirmed, all right? He is certain that any person whom he finds desirable will be attracted to him. And I've met men who felt that they were God's gift to the world and to the women race. He walked in the room and he just know that the ladies are going to just go crazy and bonkers over him, because everybody's going to be attracted to him. This is his thought pattern. A friendly smile may confirm that he is desired and that he can proceed with his conquest. So a woman, he's sitting on the organ at church. He's in the pulpit as a pastor in church, or he's at the job. One of the co-workers catches his eye. A woman in the balcony catches his eye, And so he thinks that initial contact with the eye means he's sexy, he is desired, and so now he's planning his way of getting her. So this thinking occurs even with complete strangers whom he quickly regards as his property. You watch these men who've got this lust in their hearts, they will look at anybody, even if it's a relative, they'll look at a particular part of the body that they desire, thinking that they can have anybody that they want. Okay? The person who exposes himself hopes to entice someone into a sexual act. He seeks an admiring gaze and directs that gaze. And he may do this by walking around naked. He experiences excitement in fantasizing and in the exhibitionary itself, the exhibitionary or exhibitionism. Well, if you might see that word in that what's that BDSM style of sexual fantasy. The assertion of power is most obvious in sexual assault and rape, in which the perpetrator forcefully takes possession of his target. And again, this has nothing to do with sexual need. Men who have an active and varied sexual life at home still attack women. Understand that? He's getting it at home with his wife, but he still goes out there and attacks women. It is a characteristic that both in fantasy and action, they find it most exciting to use force in making their conquest. All right? So the workplace provides an arena for these behaviors. And the perpetrator has a leverage over his victim who is subordinate. And he knows that she is unlikely to inform because she thinks she will not be believed. And that she will lose her job or perhaps lose opportunity to advance at all in her chosen line of work. And the victim also thinks that the people in charge will support the perpetrator. Okay, and then especially if he is well known and important to the reputation and success of the organization. All right. So this is what's going on in this world, in this life of whether it's they focus on those in the workplace, but those in the church is the same way. Those in the family structure, it could be an uncle, it could be a father, it could be a mother. It doesn't really matter. It's just it's that power struggle that someone have on them depending on where they are. It could be in the courthouse. Blessings to you, Garcia Johnson. Laureline, blessing to you. All right. And so that's what's going on in the mindset of a sexual predator. Is this man a sexual predator? Well, he was deemed, Bill Cosby, he was deemed a sexual predator because how he got these women to do what he needed them to do. Okay. So that's number one. What is a sexual predator? There's a thing called the Weinstein effect that I want to also bring out here that I want to read to you. And the Weinstein effect is something, I thought I was the only one doing effect shows. But apparently after Weinstein, this whole thing with him being his misconduct with women came out, then they deemed this the Weinstein effect. It's a global trend in which people come forth to accuse famous or powerful men of sexual misconduct. And the term came into use to describe a worldwide wave of these allegations that began in the United States in October of last year, 2017. Okay? When media outlets reported on sexual abuse allegations against the film producer Harvey Weinstein, and the allegations were described as a tipping point or a watershed moment and precipitated a national reckoning against sexual assault. Okay, and so this is something that kicked off last year. The effects gave rise to the Me Too campaign, which encourages people to share their experiences of sexual harassment and assault. And the two events triggered a cascade of allegations that brought about the swift removal of many men in position of power in the United States. And while tarnishing and ending political careers of additional men as it spread around the world, in the entertainment industry, allegations led to the dismissal of actors and directors alike. Tyrone says, by definition, women can be predators as well. Absolutely. I was talking to someone, a woman, about men being victims of sexual improprieties, misconduct, being victims, okay? And she couldn't believe how a man could be a victim of a sexual attack by women, and it happens a lot. I was on Facebook a couple days ago. Maybe I think it's Shantae Charles. She may or may not be here, but she showed me where there's a text message going back and forth with a young man and a young lady, or two young ladies, and how they put a Mickey in his drink or something like that, and he fell asleep on the couch, and they raped him. They took advantage of him, and this drink allowed his penis to stay erect, and they were able to do things with him. So when he woke up, he had the effect of an ejaculation. All right. Now this is not a kid show, so y'all too late. The kids already heard it. So he had the effect of an ejaculation, and he approached them and says, "What did y'all do to me?" And they just told him, "Hey, we put this in your drink and we rolled you. We gave you oral sex, and we did this to you." You know, so what? Come on. Pretty much what they're saying is, all men like this. You should be excited that we did this to you. Get over it. That was from two women who said this to this young man. And so y'all don't think this happens? This happens a lot. There are a lot of men. If you look at the national, the NADV.org or .com, or go to RAINN, RAINN.com. Okay, these are places, national organizations against sexual assault or domestic abuse and things like that, and they talk about these things that are happening to men. Just like, yes, the number is small, but it doesn't matter if it's just one man, it's still happening to them. All right, I kind of talk about that in my book, the 4 Women That Men Desire. I talk about that and what happened to me, as well as it pertains to a woman having control over me sexually. All right. So the Weinstein effect happened after Weinstein was accused with these things, and then the Me Too movement came on the scene. And then before you knew it, a whole lot of other stuff was happening. Now, I'm gonna give you some uncomfortable statistics here about rape that I pulled up from the Weinstein article, the Weinstein effect article. And what they did was they put rape at the top, that is, and then they categorized them in different types. Okay, rape is at the top, and then it says the type of rapes is in the first column. The effects and motivations behind these rapes is in the next column. Then by country is in the next column, and then what happens during the conflicts is in the next column. The laws is in the next column, and it goes on and on. But here are the types of rapes that many of you may not know about, but some of you have been victims or survivors of these type of rapes. Number 1 is acquaintance rape. Acquaintance rape. If a man reports it, he's shunned. Yes, if a woman reports it, she's celebrated and strong. This is a topic where the double standard is favorable. To women, Tyrone, and we're gonna talk about this part, what you just typed, which is going to upset a lot of you black people when it comes to Mr. Cosby. Different types of rape: acquaintance rape, date rape, gray rape, marital rape. There are people, Don, blessings to you, and Cynthia Roberts, blessings to you. Marital rape. Some people ask, how could you possibly be raped and you're married? Again, the court of public opinion is extremely flawed and sometimes very silly. there are obvious things that is true, but because they have been turned over to the character of man is to like someone or dislike someone. And so depending on the character of the person or how much stock they put in liking someone, it calls a person to deflect on something that they might even seen with their very eyes. Things that have been reported to be truth. How much stock they put in liking you could cause them to step on that will protect you, stand by your man type attitude, and we have to be very careful with that. Come on, Garcia, blessings to you. A different type of rape is statutory rape. Y'all have heard a lot of these. Prison rape, we keep hearing about that on TVs and from our uncles. Okay, gang rape, we hear about that a lot. I heard about that coming up a lot. A bunch of kids tried to gang rape me. I told my story a couple weeks ago. They tried to gang rape me. The Lord blessed me to get out of that. Serial rape, a campus rape. On a lot of, I've heard about that on being in college in the 80s. Corrective rape, genocidal rape, unacknowledged rape, rape by deception. Okay, these are things that they categorize as types of rape. Blessings to you, Demetri Pitts. The other one is the effects and motivations of rape. Effects and aftermath. Pregnancy from the rape. Rape trauma syndrome. Causes. Post-assault mistreatment. Of course, the Weinstein effect is the cause, again, of rape. Sociobiological theories. Rape culture, okay, and all these are the effects and or the motivations after a rape. The Garcia says PTSD, absolutely. ACE, I would say, the adverse childhood experience is another one. And these are studies that are done. Unfortunately, and those of you who are African Americans who are watching the show understand that a lot of the studies are not done on you. They're not done on you. They're done on mostly whites. So when the studies are done, it's hard to get an answer on how to properly treat African Americans, because in order to treat African Americans, you got to understand their culture. So those who are studying this, those who are professionals in psychology or some kind of psychotherapy or what have you, when they're brought up in their schools and their institutions, they're taught to treat and understand more of the European culture, not the black culture as much. So the PTSD and the ACE is kind of flawed, because when they do these studies, they don't study you. When a young man or young lady is sexually assaulted as a black person, it is dismissed a lot of times by professionals or those in school, whether it's grammar school, a high school, or college. A lot of times it's dismissed if it's a black on black. But when it's a white on white or a black person on a white person, then there is a rallying cry. That's a sexual assault. Understand? I hear this a lot coming up in school. The little girl got slapped on the behind by a little boy, and they said he's flirting. Okay, the white girl got slapped on the behind, and then they said that's sexual assault. We have to do something about that. And I've been seeing that for years and didn't realize that till I started studying psychology. AA hide it and tend not to talk about it. Yes, Garcia. African Americans need to volunteer more clinical trials. That's right, Lady Rochelle. I was watching the Tonight Show last night, and Haraji P, what's her name, from Empire, she was talking about the taboo of mental illness and how they were looking for an African American who was a psychologist to help them with something, and they couldn't find any in her area. They couldn't find anyone, African American. They couldn't find them because we're not entering into that field. We're just not. I thank God for my son Eric Tyson, who is in Morehouse right now. He's there for that, to be a psychologist and counseling. And so, it's not too many of us delving into that, is because in our churches, it is taboo. So, Lady Rochelle, you are absolutely right. During the conflicts is let's see, Nanking massacre. I don't know what that is. Soviet. During these particular wars and scuffles around the world, rape happened. Soviet occupation of Poland, a lot of rapes happened. The occupation of Germany, especially that. I talked about that, how they, after America and its allies went over to Germany to overtake Hitler, and they discovered all of those dead bodies that were the Jews that were annihilated, and then the armies of the world gathered up a lot of the German families who saw this and ignored it and removed them from their homes, and many of them were raped. The Bosnia War, the Bangladesh Liberation War, the Rwanda genocide, okay, the Kashmir conflict, the Syrian civil war, the Iraq insurgency, and we keep hearing about stories of some of our soldiers going over there raping these women over there. It's a rape thing, and that must be talked about, and I'm going to talk about that now in this next portion here. So I talked about what is a sexual predator. Number one, the Weinstein effect. Number two, number three, we talk about some of the people who've been accused of sexual assault and see if there is a trend going on here. Mental illness is often deemed as a demon. Tamara, you are so right. It's deemed as a demon, and that's escapism at its best. June says, as Walter said, it's a need to be some understanding of our culture. Think about how some of our own mothers we give to grown men as wives. Yep, at 15 or younger, we turn our heads. That's right, June. Rape has been a part of American fabric. Garcia Johnson. That's so true. I think Lady Rochelle inboxed me an article about New York. Let me see if I can find that. And it was very encouraging. It says here, breaking news. This was an Instagram breaking news. New York becomes the first state to launch mandatory mental health classes in all New York schools from K-12. 9 key points being taught includes identifying signs of mental health issues, resources for help, and the negative stigma that surrounds mental illness. This was great news for me, especially because this stigma is in the church, and this is what Taraji P. Henson, I never could say her name right. Somebody type her name. This is what she was saying on the Tonight Show last night. The stigma of the mental health. Okay, amen. That's Barbara. That's needed. Here are some of the people that you know about who were accused. They were not indicted or sentenced or put in jail, and they were accused. Of course, Catholic priests is at the top of my list. Catholic priests have been doing this for a few hundred years, all right? Forever. They've been doing it forever. Lately, they've been getting caught with the pants down, no pun intended. Yes, Taraji P. Henson. Okay, I did say it right, Melinda. Thank you. Catholic priests. Morgan Freeman. These are people who were accused. Not to say that their accusers were telling the truth or were they lying. I don't know, but I'm just saying they are accused of it. And some of these people, I went into their story, and others I just left up to y'all's public opinions. Okay. Taraji spoke about mental illness on The View yesterday too. On The View, McPhee, awesome. See what I'm saying? So I'm so glad someone like her is talking about it, especially because she's an African American and she's well known. So she's a perfect person to talk about it instead of it being somebody who nobody knows and it gets ignored. Morgan Freeman, Tom Brokaw, believe it or not, a well-respected man on. His show was on NBC, I believe it was, back in the day. Tom Brokaw. No, this is Tom Brokaw. Okay. Scott Baio, and from Good Times, not Good Times, from Happy Days, David Copperfield. Yeah, Copperfield. Yeah, that last name was a dead giveaway. The magician. Michael Douglas, we all know about his sexual issues that he's had. He's had to check himself in, so we understand. James Franco was accused. Corey Lewandowski was accused. Gene Simmons, the musician, right, was accused. Chris Matthews, another respected man, was accused from MSNBC. He was reprimanded at the time. Tavis Smiley was accused, and all these people were accused after Weinstein. Weinstein, you say Smith, I said Smythe, I don't know. These people were accused after. This is during the Me Too movement, okay? Tavis Smiley, and he made a plea, an announcement. He, like the rest of them said, most of them said it just didn't happen. Donovan McNabb was accused. Geraldo Rivera, the Fox News man, and a lot of folk over there at Fox News, especially the men, a lot of them have been accused. I don't know. That's a culture over there. Let's see. Matt Lauer lost his job over it. Highly respected man in NBC. John Conyers, another man, respected, African-American. Ryan Seacrest, Russell Simmons, the music mogul. Al Franken lost his job as a senator. Disgrace. Richard Dreyfuss, respected actor, brilliant man. George Takei, Star Wars man who came out as a gay man years ago. Sylvester Stallone, we know as Rocky Stallone, okay. Jamie Foxx was accused of slapping a woman with his member. And that was an amazing feat to do. R. Kelly, of course, obviously accused on numerous occasions, and Charlie Rose accused, okay. I think NBC, not NBC, CBS, the producer or something, a manager of, I don't know how you say it, of CBS, he lost his gig because of this. Yes, Bill O'Reilly. Now, did Bill O'Reilly's come out after Weinstein or before Weinstein? I can't remember. Of course, you have Michael Jackson, and there's at least 50 others on the list that I just didn't have time to write down. I did a show called what did I call it? The Cosby Show. I'm sorry, the Bill Cosby Effect. 4 months ago, when they said that when they pronounced him guilty of these charges 4 months ago, I did a show for an hour and a half on the Bill Cosby Effect, all right? And so you can go there for the other things that I'm not going to say on this show here, all right? And of course, we know about Polanski, the film director and producer back in the day who left America to escape these things, okay? And then we hear about some of these who were pedophiles and all kind of things. So just a horrible trait. So that's the accused. Let's go to the rape culture. That's what's going on here. It's a culture. America have a culture of rape. It's a patriarchal control. Rape culture. It's just like slavery. After slavery ended, the institution of slavery ended, but slavery did not end because slavery stayed in the mind. Even though it was not on the paper anymore, it stayed in the mind. So it was the control from 1865, was it 64, 65, all the way until now, that the mentality of slavery, because then the Jim Crow laws kicked in shortly after that. The voting suppression laws, okay, even redrawing these districts to confuse African Americans and minorities to vote. What they call that? What do they call that? Gerrymandering. Even that is a type of oppression. And then the new Jim Crow, the prison industrial complex, and the drug laws, and the 3 strikes you're out, and things like that. All these things here is still part of a mentality of slavery to keep you down. All right? So the rape culture, it has been around forever among blacks and whites. And in the church, the patriarchal control, even though there are more women that attend church than men, but the patriarchal control over the institutions, the religious institutions, and educational institutions have always been strong, which caused these men to fall into the rape culture, and they were able to get away with so much for so long. The women could not come forth because there was a control and a fear from the women, because they would lose their positions or not be able to climb up in the corporate ladder, or up in the ladder in education or in religion. All right, these things happen. When during the funeral of Aretha Franklin, they were talking about how Bishop Charles Ellis groped Ariana Grande. It was a mistake grope, but it was the culture, I talked about it on my show, of men grabbing women and holding women the way they do. It's second nature for men to do that in religious institutions. To now they're into another a season now. This Me Too and this Church Too, and there's all these other two. Now you can't continue in this culture of touching women, brothers. I don't care how old you are. I don't care if you say I'm the father of this house. You know, you can't touch these women. Like the Me Too movement ain't gonna let you do that stuff no more. You can't inappropriately just touch women. You can't even lay hands on women today in churches to pray for them, lay hand up or put oil on them and anoint this, anoint. You can't do that anymore. Those days are gone. You're just gonna have to let some other young lady or a seasoned mother do it for you, or speak it. But what, you're not powerful enough to just speak something? Jesus did it. He just spoke it. And some of the apostles, they just passed out, handkerchiefs. One walked past his shadow walked past someone and healed him. So you ain't got to always be touching folk, because the culture has changed, and you got to pull away from that. So this rape culture has caused these things to happen. Bill Cosby, at the age of 13, he discovered Spanish fly. At 13, he was being raised and groomed into this rape culture. And when he discovered the Spanish fly, he began to, because of his power and prestige and being able to get these roles in Hollywood and make that money, as he got older, he never walked away from that very thing that he saw that was to the advantage of his sexual desires. Okay, people don't just become this; they were this for a long time. His first attack on a woman, he didn't just think about that when he first did it. No, he had been doing that. He had been thinking that. And those of you who, again, can't see that from a man who's appeared to be as honorable as I get it. I get it. I really do. We like to defend a lot of things. That's my next point coming down. But he's discovered this, and then he did his stand-up comedy on Spanish Fly. He talked about it. Yes, it's deeply rooted. I remember seeing my first Playboy magazine, seeing my first Penthouse magazine. okay, seeing these magazines. I remember seeing that stuff. I remember when I was about 13 years old when a cousin took me downtown to an X-rated, it was, what was it called? Downtown where, man, I can't remember the theater. We had the Woods Theater. Then across the street was the United Artists Theater. And then across the street from that was a theater where they played all X-rated movies. I was about 13. And my cousin bought the ticket. And at that time, they didn't stop you at the door. They didn't care. They wanted to sell tickets. And there I was walking in there and sitting among these men in this theater, this big screen, and there were people having sex on the screen. This was triple X, and I'm sitting among all of these creepy men watching this movie at 13. Okay, and then when the movie is over, we go to the restroom, and there's a line in the restroom, and men were taking their times using the urinal, and then I realized they wasn't peeing. Okay, they wasn't peeing. It don't take no man that long to pee. Okay, and so the floors were sticky. I know what was on that floor. I know what it was. I'm 13. I was going through puberty. I had already had my my wet dream. All right, so all these things came to play. It was a perfect storm. It was setting me up for the desire to get that, that first high that I got when I had my first wet dream. Again, I hope your kids ain't watching this, but this is Sirwalterj Jones Show. We go raw, all right? Yeah, I said that. And so this is what's happening here. So I'm leaving that theater with the vision of all these old nasty, old dirty men using their right hand or left, I don't know, okay, and seeing that on the screen. What kind of world do you think I was going to enter into? You think I was going to go back to Bible study and read the scriptures and tell God thank you? No, that wasn't happening. Is there popcorn for these type of movies? Ask for a friend, June said. I refuse to eat any popcorn at that theater that day. Oh, no. How could you eat popcorn watching the X-rated movie? But what did that do? That caused me to go down there to the neighborhood video stores and go in that back room where the X-rated tapes was, and before you know it, I had a stash of VHS tapes that we were able to back up back then. You bought a dual cassette, and you was able to back those tapes up. Then they started protecting those tapes so you couldn't back it up, so you had to find little ways. We found ways of doing it, all right? And so what did that do? That caused me to live a life, enjoy the life of pornography. Why? Somebody introduced me to it. In many cases, these men, they were introduced to this stuff as a young man. Bill Cosby was introduced to Spanish Fly at the same age I was introduced. And somebody was introduced to molestation at that same age. I look at Billy Preston, who was around this age, who was molested by a man at church. All right, and then he lived the rest of his life trying to erase the smell and the stench of this man's body odor from his mouth, from his nose. But what did he do? He instead of him trying to run from that, he went further into it, and it turned him out. He became a homosexual. And these things happen, the adverse effects of an introduction. You don't know. So when you look at somebody who's now up in age and 80 years old, and you say to yourself, nah, that can't happen, nah, this, nah, that didn't just start. That thing was in him for 65 years. Anybody understand what I'm saying? You can say no all you want to. I just don't care. This next portion I want to talk about is the tribal behavior, especially of you African Americans. All right? For those of you who just got in, I'm talking about 7 points. The first one is, what is a sexual predator? Number 2, the Weinstein effect. Number 3, those who are accused of sexual assault. Number 4, the rape culture. But right now, let's talk about the tribal behavior of some of y'all. It's out of hand. Y'all have gotten out of hand with this tribal behavior because it's hard for you to see. Oh, it's hard for you to see. I just want to tell you, stop defending man's sins. Please, people, I don't care who he or she is, or even Sirwalterj. Stop defending the sins of man. God is getting ready to judge you for defending a man's sin. You closing your eyes to this man's destructive practice and misbehavior. Stop defending it. This man's blood is going to be on your hands. You got to stop this. This tribal behavior is the same behavior that you say these Donald Trump people got, who when he said he can shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and never lose anybody. You are just as bad as they are. You are tribal. You keep dismissing a man's sin because of his body of work. You will be judged. You will be judged, and I got too much scripture to back it up. Roy Moore in Alabama was running for office, and all those white evangelicals tried to push him into office because they needed his vote. So they didn't care how many women came forth. They didn't care if he had a pedophilic type attribute. They didn't care. They just said, we need his vote. And the women were eating their own, meaning other white women. I've never thought I'd see the day that white women and black women will be eating their own kind. And that's what happened with Roy Moore. And it took African-American women to shut all that down. When they finally voted, African-American women were the ones that shut it down in Alabama. Yes. Have good account, God account. Come on, Barbara. This is bad. Y'all are bad with this. My numbers are going down right now because you ain't liking it. I had 1 million people watching. Now I only got 200. Why? Because I'm stepping on your toes. Y'all are defending sins. And you should be ashamed of yourself. Yes. They defended Roy Moore. Y'all defended his Donald Trump. People defended him all the way until he got into the White House. Now he's almost untouchable by these women who are going to cry rape. It's too late. He in that White House. They tried to get him in the White House so that this stuff can go away. Because once you become the president, now you have more power to shut women up. Trying to tell y'all ain't liking this. Judge Brett Kavanaugh, his accuser, Christine Blasey Ford, I believe it is. She's a professor now at the college. She came forth, and all the women dismissed it. They says, this didn't happen. This can't happen. Why would you come forth 40 years later? That didn't happen. Then a second one came forth. Today, a third one came forth. They're like, that didn't happen. It can't happen. Because you would have said something 30 years ago. You would have said something maybe 20 years ago. Why are you waiting now? Those people who say that don't know how it works. They don't know how victimizing works. They've never been in that state of a victim to know how it works. It don't matter when they came forth. Don't matter. It's the fear complex there. All right. So Kavanaugh, I don't know if it's true or not. My point is, it's amazing how double standards are coming to play here. And yes, it is a color scheme, and I'll talk about that in a minute. For those of you who always talk about the color of things. Trauma is real, Jones. That's right. Trauma is real, and it is laying dormant in many people for 50 years, 60 years, 70 years, laying dormant. And then when they finally come out, then they are victimized again because it took them 70 years to come forth. When it happened, they can't erase it. Does it matter when they came forth? Does it matter when you get saved? Does it matter when you get saved? Or do God hold you responsible for not being saved for 50 years? You was a reveler. You was a midnight rambler for 50 years. You just was a no good. You hated God for 50 years. And then on your 50th birthday, you got saved. Guess what? God erases everything He erases everything prior to that, and he says, come on, son, come on, daughter, come on in. You with me now. I don't remember none of that stuff. I don't remember none of that stuff. I'm trying to tell you, the third accuser is Julie Swetnick. Came forth today, Amber. All right? So this is what's happening. So as far as being tribal, y'all are tribal. And my 2 points of being tribal is, number one, stop defending man's sin. Stop doing it. Stop doing it. Because if your daughter is raped, then what? You say something different, wouldn't you? If your son was raped, you say something different. If your mother was raped, you say something different, wouldn't you? Yes, you would. Yeah, you would. What are you saying here, Joe? But the white elephant in the room, pun intended, is that when any white person defends the verdict and judgment purely for the sake of justice, we get lambasted as biased. We want all. I know, Joe. I know. Stop defending sins. Number two, here's a bad thing y'all got. Stop comparing crimes. Stop comparing crimes and sins. That's just as worse as you defending man's sins. Okay? Stop comparing it. In scripture, I see this a few times. Because what y'all defense is, why aren't all these other white men in jail? Why weren't these other white men sentenced or charged? Why weren't these other white men blah, 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 but they got Bill Cosby? So you mean to tell me, should we give him a green light for his individual offense? Because all these other people who did the same thing have not been committed. That's what y'all saying. And let him go, because what he did needs to be compared to all these other men's sins. God is going to judge you for this mess. All right? Hold on right now, because I got to sign off right here. I got 3 more with the points to make. It's going to pee all off a little bit. Oh, D. Curtis Randall is over here getting ready to play some jams on this beautiful radio station here. And I'm going to keep talking to Facebook Live over here, because they ain't liking me right now, and I'm going to make them not like me even more in the next 5 more minutes. How about that? Listen to the jams. The jams are coming right now. D. Curtis Randall, now. Sirwalterj Jones Show. Bro. Let me finish. I had to sign off, y'all. You know, I am working for the station. No, they working for me. You are comparing crimes. 18 men, Luke 13, I bring this up a lot. Luke chapter 13 and 4, 18 men died in the Tower of Siloam. 18 men. Blessing to you, Victoria and Deborah House. Blessings to you, all me. 18 men died. The building fell on them. And the men around Jesus wanted to know, were these people the worst of sinners? Gloria, blessings to you. Were these the worst of sinners? Why? Because Jews felt that when catastrophe happened to someone, that there was something you did. The church believed that too, as it pertains to tithing and offerings. And I don't want to go there. Jesus said, no. They weren't the worst of sinners. So then they pretty much saying to themselves, but why did they die like that if they wasn't the worst of sinners? Jesus said, but what about you? What about you? If you don't get yourself right, a worse thing gonna happen to you. So what is it to you that why these men died? They died. I was going to get more popcorn, but I'll never view popcorn the same. Joe Hill. Okay, they died. He brought up another point here, because he's talking about individual repentance. Your individual repentance for sin. All right. He said, go to John 21 and 22. Is another place. John 21 and 22. Jesus asked this question. Peter, being Peter, approached Jesus pretty much like, hey, this disciple who's laying in your bosom, you know, the one who you love so dearly. Yeah, if I, Peter like, what's going to happen to him? And here's Jesus' response. He said, if I want him to remain alive until I return, what is that to you? He says, but as for you, you follow me. This is Jesus. He pretty much rebuked Peter. He says, why are you worried about what this guy is doing around me? Remember Mary, Martha? One was in the kitchen cooking and the other one was tending to Jesus. What is it to you what these people are doing right now? You tend to your business and they will tend to theirs. What is it to you what Weinstein and all these other people that I put up here, what is it to y'all what they did and why they're not in the court of law? What is it to you when we're talking about Bill Cosby? We can talk about them when their time comes and hopefully we can support the women who went forth and not to dismiss them. But Bill Cosby did an individual crime and sin. So why would you be upset when he get whatever he gets and comparing what these people ain't getting to him? He still committed the crime, didn't he? And out of his mouth, didn't he not say he drugged that woman? Why would you dismiss out of his own mouth that he did it because you're looking at somebody else's window? God's going to judge you because you're tribal and you're eating your own. You're eating your own. It's amazing. The sisterhood is broke. Work out your own salvation. David Brock, yeah, he still committed a crime. Galatians 2 and 11. Galatians 2 and 11. Peter is confronted by Paul. I start at 10. Their only suggestions was that we keep on helping the poor, which I have always been eager to do. But when Peter came to Antioch, I had to oppose him to his face. For what he did was wrong. When he first arrived, he ate with the Gentile believers who were not circumcised. But afterwards, when some friends of James came, and Peter wouldn't eat with the Gentiles anymore. He was afraid of criticism from those people who insisted on the necessity of circumcision. As a result, other Jewish believers followed Peter's hypocrisy, and even Barnabas was led astray by this hypocrisy, by their hypocrisy. So when I saw that they were not following the truth of the gospel message, I said to Peter in front of everybody, he said, I said it in his face. Since you, a Jew by birth, have discarded the Jewish laws and are liking or living like a Gentile, why are you now trying to make these Gentiles follow the Jewish traditions? You are a Jew by birth, not sinners like the Gentiles. Yet we know that a person is made right with God by faith in Jesus Christ, not by obeying some law. Paul was rebuking Peter right in front of his face, in front of everybody. The accountability of people. The accountability, that was the number 6 on my list here, accountability. What is wrong with you? We need people in our lives to be accountable to us and we accountable to them. Bill Cosby was a part of a rape culture and his friends knew what he was doing. They knew what he was doing. You can't correct America's father. What did he do? Somebody could have rescued this man. Couldn't do it. They were part of it themselves. Richard Pryor was one of them. There's a whole bunch of these guys that was a part of that culture. I believe Red Fox was one of them too. All these cats hung out at the Playboys Club. And you don't go to the Playboys Club to play cards. You go to the Playboys Club because there are women there. And so you don't blame the women who were there at the Playboys Club. and then somebody put a Mickey in there, you are a predator if you got to put a Mickey in somebody's cup of wine or juice or what have you to render them bodiless in a sense so you can have your way with them. You are still a predator. You're waiting for the opportunity to take advantage of someone. You are a predator. Bill Cosby was a predator. Now, 60 women came forth. I don't know if some of them were telling lies. They just want to join forces so they can make some money. That could have happened. That could have happened. But I don't know, and you don't know either. You wasn't there. But what you're doing is you automatically say, none of it happened. But you say with Donald Trump, all of it happened. With Weinstein, all of it happened. But with Bill Cosby, none of it happened. You are of the worst tribe. You are. A fly can't be mad for getting caught in the web just because he followed all the other flies into the web. Joe, doesn't matter what happened to the other flies, he's now trapped. What does this? Yeah, come on, Joel. Joel, preach, teach. He committed a crime. It gets time, Amy. This time he may need to get right with God and come out strong. Be testimony and help others with status like this. Think twice. Yeah, amen. That's right. A couple of typos there, but I got your point. The sinner can't preach salvation to the sinner. There you go. That's my whole point of bringing up these other guys. They can't. They can't preach because if he tell on Cosby, Cosby would tell on him, on these guys. So the culture at the Playboy Mansion was rape the women. Rape them. So the statute of limitation ended. So all these women cases, they didn't have none. Oh, but he messed up. See, if he had just stopped, he couldn't. Because it was in him. This man is sick. If he had just stopped. He kept going and he grabbed a hold to the wrong woman. In 2004. If you just stop, you could be healed. You could be rescued. Because in many cases, all cases, God is waiting on the sinner to come forward. That's why he ain't killing the sinner. He don't kill all the sinners. Y'all think that God is killing all the sinners. He ain't killing the sinners. No, he waiting on the sinners to repent. In many cases, the sinner is in self-destruction, and then the sinner kills himself in many cases. I'm not talking about suicide, but his destructive way causes him to die. If a man go and pick up strange women, he could contract AIDS and he could die. God didn't do that. The man did that to himself because the law was already placed out there. The law of righteousness is always there. So a man goes against the law of righteousness. He go out there and he does something, and it's the law of sowing and reaping. God didn't just strike a man down. A man did that. He fell into his own lust. That's what he did. He sinned against his own body. That's what he did. He did that. So you can't blame God for stuff like that. And you can't blame the devil for everything that happens either. The devil's like, thank y'all for blaming me for this stuff. I ain't even do this stuff, but the people of God is blaming me. Woo, man, I'm so powerful. You did that to yourself. I can't tell you how many times I did stuff to my own self and I blame the devil on it. That's ridiculous. I'm out there sleeping with women, but I've never sexually attacked a woman. Never, ever sexually attacked a woman. Never had to put nothing in a woman's drink. Never lured them into my lair. No, my relationships with women in the past have always been consensual. Always. We wine and dined each other. We talked and had a great time, took days sometimes, and before we knew it, we both got into we bumped into each other in the hallway, and there we were, okay? But I never ever had to attack a woman, and never ever had to pat on the back and do this and put stuff in. I never had to do that stuff. Why? Why would I have to do all that stuff? Because she wants me as much as I want her. So let her have her way. And so I look at this Bill Cosby thing, as powerful as you are, you mean to tell me you ain't no woman out there that want to sleep with you? I'm not justifying any sin, but I'm saying, why would you have to go to that aspect? It's because there's a sickness there that experience with Spanish Fly, what he saw was a part of his fantasy and control. It wasn't about sex. He knew he could have sex with anybody, and trust me, he was having sex with other people outside of his marriage. He was. He wasn't Spanish flying everybody. I don't believe he was Spanish flying everybody. No. I believe he was having sex with other people, but the fantasy and the control and the sickness and the predatorial way of him wanted to do this Spanish Fly with people. You understand? And you may not understand it, and I need you to read a book. Yeah, and I talked about this on the show 4 months ago. His wife knew that he was doing what he was doing. His wife knew that. His wife knew it. Many wives know that these men are doing these things. They know it. Or he thought because no one said anything at the first time, he felt, why not do it? I know. Yes. This ain't sitting right up with y'all. I know it ain't. Poor tink tinks out there. All right. The last one, the sixth one is accountability. The last one is the dangers of being pro-black. The dangers of being pro-black. Okay. I'm sorry, y'all. I like psychology. I don't like to give just a story of, some little cute little show. I don't like cute little shows. I'll leave that up to some of these people in radio. I don't do cute little shows. My shows, I want you to think. As a man, think in his heart. Think with your brain, because that is the central processing unit of everything in your body. Mind, soul, body, everything is up here, and God either got control of this or the devil got control, one of the two. And so I work on this because I know this is what's going to heal you. This is what's going to heal you. Blessed Barris Bolton, I should be seeing you soon, maybe next week, right? We need to change phone numbers because this thing is going on. The predatory illness took him over. Yep, this was not a surprise to the missus. Thank you, Victoria. No surprise. His wife knew this. And anybody who say his wife didn't know, y'all need to wake up a little bit more and turn off Empire and all these other, turn those shows off and wake up. Waketh, thou uppeth. The last one is the dangers of being pro-black. Black people, I know you want to protect the brothers and the sisters. I know. Stephen Perry, you're a little late to the show. We talked about that, sex and control. We talked about, be kind and rewind. We know. I come across a lot of you on social media who's very pro-black. I'm pro-black. Not to the extreme that many of you are, though. Some of y'all, and excuse me for sniffing, something going on in this room. I don't know what it is because I shook that cold a long time ago. Some of y'all are so pro-black that it's difficult for you to stay focused on conversations, any conversation, without bringing up the black plight and fight. It's hard for you. And you're so pro-black that when something does happen in justice, not injustice, but in justice, in the courts, or some kind of proceeding, some kind of case, and then some kind of ruling, you're so pro-black that if it's a black person on that stand, it was always against him because he's black. I'm not talking about Bill Cosby, because I even believe in my heart of hearts that he was targeted. I do believe that he was targeted, but I am not like all y'all who feel that because he was targeted, he didn't deserve. No, if you decide to enter into a crime or a sin, you deserve whatever you're going to get. And the scriptures would back me up. If you decide to go in that world, you should know as a highly respected man, especially to black people, that this is the conduct you should not be into. You should have known that one day that your time was going to be up. You should have known that. You should have known to not be hypocritical when you gave that pound cake speech and you talked about the boy should not have stole the pound cake, he wouldn't have got shot. Well, if you had not been raping the women, you would not have gotten caught yourself. You see what I'm saying? You can't talk about what you shouldn't be doing, and then you doing it in your speech. You talking about what not to do when you had years prior, because your speech, you did your speech in 2007, I think it was. Prior to that, you had been raping women. You can't do a speech like that not thinking that you're going to get caught. Do you not know that many people who talk against homosexuality so hard that they're discovered to be in the closet themselves, on the down low, tapes pop up with them having fellatio with some man? The ones who are so hardcore homosexual, against homosexuality, the preachers in the pulpit talking about something, they're going to hell, and then they're the ones busted for doing this very same thing. Republicans I've seen in Congress talked about this homosexual, try to get rid of, not allow these men that marry men, whatever, and then before you know it, they got busted they're in the bathroom stall, and one foot go over to the other stall, and then before you know it, y'all know them stories, okay? Well, when you're talking about a sin or a crime so hard, in many cases, you're doing the very thing as a deflection or a help for yourself to... Anybody know what I'm talking about? Maybe you don't. Okay. What are you saying here? Jedediah, based upon his track record, the sentence was light. Yes! I always see things like this from a different perspective. This is God's mercy to Bill Cosby. If this never happened, he would not even come on, Jedediah. That's my whole point. Man, he was facing 30 years, y'all. They gave him 3 to 10. He might serve 1 or 2 because of his age. He got off scot-free. And don't think he in that jail, they're not going to treat him with the utmost respect and kindness and care. Even though he in a state prison, he's not in the federal prison. They still gonna treat him good in prison. Yeah, they are. What you saying here? Yeah, we do tend to go overboard. Carmen Davis, yes. Tammy, blessings to you. Sin is sin. Yeah, it's sin. It's just sin is sin. All right. But let me tell you about that sin is sin comment. I don't know if I'm gonna do this. If they convicted Cosby, what the heck are they doing with this Kavanaugh? I think only because Bill admitted to giving some drugs. However, I do believe that he and some of those. Yeah, well, Bears, I talked about that. You might be late to the show. We can't have compare-itis. We just cannot have compare-itis. The man did the crime. Now he's doing the time. No matter what anybody else did, he did a crime. If they decide to profile him because he's black, it don't even matter. He decided to do a crime. He decided to do a crime. And you decided to do a crime like that as a black man, knowing we're in a racial situation in America, that's your fault. That is your fault. I can't sympathize or empathize or whatever thighs with the man for wanting to do this for so long, and we're looking up to you as America's father, the most respected man who would never do anything like this, and you turned on me, you betrayed me. That's what you did. So everything that you did in the 60s and 70s, I can't even think about it. In the 80s, I can't think about Mr. Huxtable and all of the wonderful life lessons you gave to your children on that show. I can't think about that stuff. You were a hypocrite. You were a liar to me. You betrayed me. You see what I'm saying? So you can't think that you can just do those things and then wipe your lips and then go and stand over there in the court of morality. You can't. And these judges, even these federal judges, have been put in penitentiary and jail because they're sitting on the court putting people in jail for the very crimes that they're doing themselves. These judges are sending people to jail, especially black people. They're sending them to these private-owned jails and prisons that are owned by these corporations so that the judge can get a kickback from sending these boys to jail. And they're busting these judges, and they're sending these judges to the very jail and where they're sending these boys. Good. I have no sympathy for you. You should have known better to do something like that. I've been in that life. The reason why I could talk this way, I lived that life. I was a hypocrite myself, man. I was up there preaching, you should not be doing this, and I went home and did the very thing I was in against. You see what I'm saying? I can't. Then I wanted somebody to sympathize with me because I can't let this go. Me think you protest too much. D. Curtis Reynolds in here wanting me sign stuff. My sign stage, Michael Todd sign stage. What's that? Sign stage.
The place you didn't remember the name.
Oh, Michael Todd. What is that? What was that about? Michael Todd.
The theater.
The theater. Oh, Michael Todd Theater. Yes, the X-rated theater in Chicago. Michael Todd. See, D. Curtis Randall, you just old. Yeah, that's the thing about it. You just old. He got yeah, Shingle-line. Yeah. Absolutely. Not that you know anything about that. All right. So y'all, let me shut this down. So his lessons are no longer valid because he fell from grace. What are you talking about, Pitts? I don't understand that. He definitely betrayed the black race. He did, Barris. He betrayed us. He betrayed us. Now, Pitts, now I get what you're saying because of what Bear said and what I might have said. I still love Fat Albert. I love it. I still love The Cosby Show. I do. But can't you see how hard it is now to look at this man's face on screen? Can't you see how difficult it is? Why do you think the scriptures keep telling us not to do these things, not to rub shoulders with the world? Because then the perceptions of man, when we look at you, is like, I can't. The millennials don't even go to church anymore. Not y'all's churches. They left y'all's churches. You know what the number one reason why millennials have left y'all's churches? They said because of hypocrisy. Millennials tell me all the time, we don't go to y'all's churches because y'all are hypocrites. Y'all telling us what we shouldn't be doing, and y'all doing the very same thing. So they look at their fathers in the pulpits talking about what you shouldn't do, and they're like, whatever, Dad. What time did you get in last night? Because last I checked, I heard the door open at 3 a.m. Yeah, you, Pastor. Yeah, Carmen. Yes. That's how I feel. He wasn't even decent. He wasn't a decent man. He was lying to us. Cheating with a consenting woman is much different than drugging them. Yes, that's just a low blow. I'm with you there. I'm not for cheating on your wife. I'm not for that. But my God, you that powerful? You couldn't have consensual sex for the woman you had to drug them? The drugging told me there's a sickness there. The drugging told me there's something there. That you couldn't have consensual sin. Yeah. Melinda says pastors have curfews. Yeah, especially if nobody know where he went. First lady at home wondering, where's your daddy? Oh, I don't know. I don't know. When the first lady got to ask where the pastor is, and it's 3 a.m., that's the problem. By the way, it has taken 2 weeks for the sniffing to go away. It's a good thing. It's finally gone. Carmen Davis. Carmen Davis, I love thee. Truth is truth. I don't care where it come from. Yeah, okay. Then I get your point, Pitts. I get your point. I prefer getting my truth from a truth liver. Blessed are the peace keeper as well as the peacemaker. Yeah, the keepers of it. Those who have the fruit of the Spirit in them, not who's got these moral clothes on, but there's no moral in them. They're full of immorality, but they get the clothes on. I prefer not to listen to them. I choose to listen to people who I know their lives lined up. I'm going to listen to them. How about that? Cash me outside, if you will. I'd rather listen to the life of Jesus Christ. And those who are honest with me. Even Paul was honest. He said, I was the worst of the sinners, but he says, past tense. Yeah. Yeah. No one is without sin. Pitts, Okay. All right. I'm not, Pitts. I'm not. I'm just going to give you an olive branch. Let's see. Let me see if I can find one. Ain't nothing around here but flyers. Here's a Chicago Fest olive branch. Hey, come to Chicago, Pitts. Let's have dinner. Oh, well, you live here already. Yeah. Well, let's go out somewhere to Indiana. How about that? Then we feel like we did something. All right, Deborah. And Dennis Griffin, blessing to you. I'm going to shut this down. There are my 7 points. And if you didn't get it by now in the hour and 20 minutes, you're not going to get it. You're not going to get it. You don't want to get it. You're not interested in the story. We should move on and talk about bumblebees and Febreze and flower beds. Because when y'all go deflecting like you're doing, you're really not interested in the truth. You're really not. So, I got dirty feet. There's dust on my feet. When I shut this down, I'm going to wipe the dust off my feet and go. Hannibal Burgess only went after Cosby, yep, because he was preaching hard. These millennials are vicious, yep. Hannibal told that joke, and it exposed everything. Necrophilia. It could be Stephen Perry, as far-fetched as that is. We should only rely on the Word of God, God's church, to praise God. Amy? Mm-hmm. Yes, speak the truth. Glory King, you get it? Thank God. Hallelujah. I'm glad somebody get it. Praise God. All right. What else is there to say but I'm done. Yes, pets, be sure to keep oneself unspotted. That is in the book of James. Unspotted from the world. Do good, go out and help the poor and the needy. That's what he's relating to. Tend to the poor. Tend to the widows, indeed. And be unspotted from the world. And then maybe people will sit down and talk to you. And if you get a spot there, get you some shout. Get you some, I got a spot here. Get you some shout. Yeah. I remember having that problem because there was I told that story where I was a school teacher and there was a whiteboard and one of the students took a permanent marker and wrote on the board. And when it was time for me to erase the board, it wouldn't erase because it was permanent. And I says, I got to clean this board. It's the only board I got. And I took that board home, went in the kitchen, and went under there and found some cleanser. And it wouldn't come out. I found some dishwashing detergent. It wouldn't come out. But there was a bottle of Shout down there. That was the last bottle. I said, okay, what is this? Shout. I heard about this. And I sprayed that Shout on that. And that just wiped on it, wiped that permanent marker, wiped it right clean. Y'all need to get you some Shout and shout it out. Go church. What? Go church to praise God. Preachers are human, subject to hurting people. Only God is perfect. Amen, Amy. Yes, amen. Hallelujah. Anyhow, the Lord was teaching me a lesson through that whole thing. I told Tyrone Davis, my dearest brother, that whole story. I saw him in that vision as well. You know, I remember, and I'll tell that story later on. But the Lord, He shows y'all Himself in these lessons. God does this all the time. He shows y'all Himself in these lessons, and you're not getting the lesson. You're not understanding the lesson. These things that we see on TV is a lesson to you, the church, and you ignore it, you dismiss it. You're like, all right, we'll give him we'll let him go. No, God says, study that. That's a lesson right there, right there. That's a lesson. Because you're going to go out into the world. If you don't know anything about the world, I can't send you out there. You're no good to me. You're no good to me. All right. All right. Lesson's over, by the way. Hit the share button if you're on this Facebook thing. And if you're on YouTube, go ahead and hit that button. All right. Tomorrow, Sunday school will be here with Elder Rodney Jones, and we'll be talking about some more creation stuff. I'm gonna go out here and, well, is it dinner time? It ain't dinner time yet, so I'm gonna wait. All right, but it's book writing time. Get ready. Book is coming. Get ready. I love y'all with the love of Jesus. Pray for Bill Cosby. Pray for his mind. He's at a place that he's never been before. He's in 80 years. I don't think he's ever been in a place like this. Pray for his mind. Because God keeps him alive long enough to understand the lesson that he turned to God, and that the other inmates there turned to God too through this case. And so they can see through Bill Cosby story that all men can fall from grace. All men. I don't care how powerful you are, they all can fall. And then when he leaves there, that he goes through good rehabilitation, and that the Lord also sustained the minds of Camille, is that his wife's name, of her mind as well. I don't know what are the other children that are left I can't remember. I know he had lost his son. I don't know much about his children, but that family, protect them. And then there are those who are living their lives financially from the work that Bill Cosby did. So I also want to pray for the financial the stability of those actors and actresses out there who did the Cosby Show, and any other, even the Fat Albert cartoon that went into reruns and syndications, what have you. There are people who are still getting paid for those production work in residual incomes. There was a young man who was working at Trader Joe's because they had to pull the Cosby Show's replays. And so I want to pray also for those people who are making a living off of residual incomes, that money's dropped. All right, sorry, the phone rang. So let's pray for those who, so they could regain their finances, either through other things, or I'm not sure how it's going to work, but that they regain. All right, I think I've talked enough. All right, we love you guys. And you know me, I might go on again tonight and talk about something. Although I work from sun to sun, the Sirwalterj show is never done. Bears Bolton, I saw your message. I'll hit you back. Love you guys. This is Sirwalterj Show.